Madam Speaker. That is the reality of the situation. And that's why I found it very difficult to be in my seat as the leader of the Conservative Party tried to explain a Conservative policy on immigration. The leader needs to go back to the drawing board, Madam Speaker. He really and truly needs to look at ways in which he can contribute to the debate on immigration, Madam Speaker, because he failed on all accounts coming into this particular debate. Thank you, Madam.
So the questions and comments will come after question period. Statements by members, déclaration de député, the honourable member for Malpeque.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Island farmers are at the leading edge of climate adaptation. They are strong stewards of the environment, and they know firsthand the impacts of warming climate has on the future of their industry. Recently, island farmers have been working with the Potato Board researchers and living labs in their studying of cover crops. Cover crops assist in retaining nitrogen and nutrient, builds soil organic matter, reduces erosion, and creates better resiliency against increasingly frequent extreme weather events. Research has shown they can also produce up to a 10% yield improvement, and some varieties of cover crops can produce additional income for farmers. They are now utilized in nearly 50% of fields where potatoes were planted the year prior. I'd like to commend the leadership of research and agronomy specialist Ryan Barrett and island producers on their innovative efforts to adapt to changing climate while still ensuring they produce some of the finest foods in the world.
The honourable member for Designated Mississippi. Hold on, I'm Mississippi, Churchill River.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, with Red Dress Day having just passed, it is important to continue our commitment to end violence against all women and children. Yes. The Moose Hide Campaign is an Indigenous-led nationwide movement started along Canada's infamous Highway of Tears. It calls on men, boys, and all Canadians to stand up against gender-based violence. Co-founders, Paul and his daughter Raven, started this campaign to honor women and children and to challenge men and boys to stand with women and children, to speak out against gender-based violence, to support each other and hold each other accountable, and to be positive role models for one another. By wearing a Moose Hide pin and participating in Moose Hide Campaign Day, Canadians are making measurable and meaningful progress towards reconciliation and the creation of a country where violence against women and children can no longer flourish in the shadows. I encourage all members of this House to show their support by wearing and sharing a Moose Hide pin today.
Yeah. The honourable member for Richmond Hill.
Mother is a simple word, and yet it has many deep meanings. Mother is birth. Mother is love. Mother is warmth. Mother is hope. Mother is a walking miracle. A mother comprehends what the child does not speak. A mother's hug lasts long after she lets go. Madam Speaker, mother is a simple world, but being mother is no simple job. Indeed, the mothers of our nation and those of others, such as Iran, are the embodiment of the strength and resilience. And they take these traits with them at themselves everywhere they go, from home to their communities and society. Madam Speaker, a feminist economic policy that puts equality and providing opportunities for our nation's mother at its core is essential, and it works. It's not easy being a mother. If it were, fathers would do it. To my wife, Homera, to the world, you're a mother. To our family, you're the world. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Manicouagan. Madam Speaker, when I was newly elected, I met a giant of the Mingani region who inspired me, as he inspired the entire North Shore, Mr. Luc Noel. Today, as he leaves his position as elected warden, which he held for more than 10 years, I want to express my gratitude to him and the gratitude of all North Shore residents. This man, who is mixed race because of his Anticostian, Acadian, and Innu origins, has a head and heart that are faithful and dedicated to the land and to the people who have forged it, and that's because he is Kayan. Maybe, Madam Speaker, you don't know what a Kayan is. That's what we call the people of Havre-Saint-Pierre. But imagine a sea wind of great force, which can occupy the whole space and which could move, transform, create everything through movement or words. Energetically, with a benevolent and inflexible will, and you will begin to understand who this great man is. Luc, thank you. You are one of those who build our country on our land. That is why there will never be enough Cayen or Cayen of your caliber. The Honourable Member for Alfred Pélan. Madam Speaker, this week is National Nursing Week. I would like to express my deep gratitude and appreciation for the incredible work that nurses do every day. They are the heroes behind the scenes in our communities, working tirelessly to provide care, comfort, and support to those in need. Michelle, Nicole, Joanne, Kathy, Jay, Karim, France, and all the nurses, especially at Cité de la Santé de Laval, your dedication, compassion, and expertise makes a big difference in the lives of countless people. You hold our hands, listen to our worries, and provide essential care when we need it most. You show incredible strength and bravery. Your efforts do not go unnoticed. You are the backbone of our health system. We are grateful to you. On behalf of all Canadians, I want to thank you. Thank you.
For Kenora. Mr. Speaker, there have been far too many closures, far too many accidents, and far too many lives lost along the Trans-Canada Highway through northwestern Ontario. It's why we've been calling for the twinning of this stretch for years. This is a project that was supported by the former Conservative government and is supported by the provinces of Ontario and Manitoba. But the only missing piece, Mr. Speaker, is support from this federal Liberal government. We are thankful that construction of Phase 1 has begun with support of the province, but we need federal involvement to be able to get it over the finish line. Mr. Speaker, that's why I rise today to once again renew my calls for these federal Liberals to step up, stop stalling, and support this key infrastructure project so people can travel safely throughout northwestern Ontario. And Mr. Speaker, if they can't bring it home, I can assure you that Canada's Conservatives will.
The Honourable Member for Oakville North Burlington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Did you know that Williams syndrome occurs in about 1 in every 10,000 births? Williams syndrome is a genetic condition that is caused by a random genetic deletion. Medical, developmental, and learning challenges typically occur alongside unique abilities. It occurs equally in males and females, all cultures, and to birth parents of all ages. Those with Williams syndrome have medical and developmental issues, but at the same time they exhibit striking verbal abilities, highly social personalities, and an affinity for music. I'd like to highlight the accomplishments of Karina Scally, who lives with Williams syndrome. Karina has taken the stage at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, traveled to the United Nations with the Minister of Disability Inclusion, and recently graduated from Sheridan College with her ECE. Don't ever say that Williams syndrome has held Karina back, because she is accomplishing more than most people in their lifetime. Join me in raising awareness for Williams syndrome. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, 70 years ago, a group of 85 young men set sail to Canada from Portugal to start a new life. May 13th marks the anniversary of the first official labor migration of Portuguese arriving at Pier 21 aboard Saturnia in 1953. The community refers to them as pioneers, and I would like to take this moment to recognize them and my father, Antonio Souza, who made that inaugural journey in search of opportunity. Many were sent to work in the farms and forestry. My dad went to work in the camps of Goose Bay, Labrador. His determination paid off in making Toronto's Kensington Market their new home. Soon, others followed, including my mother and brother a year later. This is but one story of courage and resilience that define the Portuguese-Canadian experience. Through hard work and perseverance, they and their descendants have contributed greatly to Canada's social, cultural, and economic fabric. And as the community celebrates this milestone, we recognize the legacy of those pioneers who opened doors. We thank them and many more Portuguese Canadians, men and women, who to this day continue to lead the way in building a strong and vibrant Canada. Parabéns e obrigado.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as if censoring what people can see or say or hear online, the Liberals had to go even a step further. And that was this past weekend at their convention. They decided to put forward a policy that would require journalists to give up their sources in order to be published online. It wasn't enough to censor Canadians at large, they had to target journalists. Now, one has to imagine for a moment. Imagine what would happen if journalists had to be vetted by this government in order to release a story on, say, I don't know, donations given by the Beijing government to the Trudeau Foundation, or let's say foreign interference in our elections, or let's say the many, many, many ethical breaches of this government. I wonder what would happen if journalists had to be vetted in order to release those stories. They probably wouldn't go public, which begs the question, is this government simply acting preemptively in order to get ahead of future stories they know are to be coming? Why is this government so hell-bent on censoring the media?
The honourable member for Glengarry, Prescott Russell.
Mr. Speaker, it is with sadness that I rise. This morning, we were horrified to hear of the tragic events that occurred in the community of Bourget in my riding. Every time there is a shooting, we always think to ourselves, it won't happen here. It will happen somewhere else. Unfortunately, this morning, one police officer lost his life and 2 other police officers were injured.
About Sergeant Mueller's family, I can't stop thinking about those officers who had to deliver the news to Sergeant Mueller's family. I can't stop thinking about those officers who were injured, and I can't stop thinking about the OPP officers who lost a colleague. The next few days, weeks, months, and years will be hard on our community, but especially our local police officers. My deepest condolences to Sergeant Mueller's family, and I wish a speedy recovery to the injured officers. Let us never forget that every day, police officers are putting their lives in danger to protect our communities. Je tiens à remercier.
I want to thank all the police officers and first responders who assisted in this tragic event this morning. From the bottom of my heart, thank you to our police officers.
The honourable member for Prince Albert.
After 8 years, this Prime Minister is completely out of touch. His government is driving up farmers' costs, and now he plans a 41-cent a litre tax on gas, heat, and food. Canada's largest mega project, spring seeding, is now in progress. Farmers are planting their crops, and they tell me this is the most expensive year ever. Farm cash expenses exceed $11.5 billion in 2022, 11% higher than 2020. And this year, they'll be even higher. His deficits have driven up borrowing rates, making it more expensive for farmers to finance their crop inputs. And thanks to this Prime Minister's carbon tax, farmers continue to have expenses that their global competitors do not have. Our farmers want to change, Mr. Speaker. They're tired of this Prime Minister's out-of-touch policies. They want a government that does not punish them for growing food. They want a government that is committed to letting them do what they do best, feeding Canadians and feeding the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Brandon Souris.
Instead of implementing a plan to fight inflation, the Liberals are determined to repeat their failed inflationary approach, and people are paying the price. Canadians are out of money, and this Liberal government is out of touch. The good news is Conservatives have a plan to clean up the Liberal mess. Our Conservative leader stands for common sense of the common people, united for our common home, Canada. We will lower prices by ending inflationary deficits and scrapping the carbon tax on heat, gas, and groceries. We will bring home powerful paychecks for workers by lowering taxes and clawbacks to reward their hard work. We will ensure people can find a place to call home by firing the gatekeepers and freeing up land to build. And we will protect communities by ending the catch and release of repeat violent criminals. Our Conservative team will keep working to turn hurt into hope, and our leadership of our Conservative leader, under the leadership of our Conservative leader, we will bring back the common sense of the common people.
The honourable member for Mississauga, Streetsville.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to speak about Mother's Day. Mothers are the foundation of our families and the backbone of our communities. We must also remember that Mother's Day is a celebration for mothers across this country and for those who play a motherly role in our lives, who provide us with love, care, and guidance. They all deserve our gratitude and appreciation. Notre mère nous...
Our mothers nurture us, support us, and play a critical role in shaping our identity. Through thick and thin, they give us comfort, courage, and wisdom. when we need it the most. Let us honor these mothers who have paved the way for us.
All mothers, including the members in this House, for their love, strength, and resilience. Let's come together and express our heartfelt appreciation for all the mothers for their selfless love, unwavering dedication, and boundless sacrifice. And to my mother, Norma, and my mother-in-law, Lerma, I love you so much. Bonne fête des mères.
Happy Mother's Day.
The Honourable Member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, postal workers play vital roles in our small communities, but Canada Post's model for rural communities just isn't working. In many small towns, the postmasters themselves are responsible for providing a facility for the post office, something Canada Post only pays them a couple of $100s a month for, much less than market rates. And the starting wage for these positions that lie at the heart of community life, less than $20 per hour. In the community of South Bank, the community was without its post office for almost a year, and local residents and Regional Director Clint Lambert had to renovate a community building in order to restore postal services. In Atlin, where I'm heading tomorrow, the community still hasn't received a permanent post office location from Canada Post, nor a postmaster. Mr. Speaker, rural places deserve reliable service delivery from this government, and Canada Post's model for rural post offices needs a lot of work. I hope this minister will improve the model for rural Canada and its postmasters. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, the pathetic circus is back on the hill. With their false smiles, their false benevolence, here come the anti-choicers, the anti-women. Generous donors to the Conservatives, here they are again, waiting to applaud, moved. A few members of the official opposition who will come to encourage them and sing the praises of their holy crusade against women's rights. They're here with their signs in big numbers, with their lovely, harmless faces, but these are the same people who intimidate doctors in front of abortion clinics, who make young women feel guilty, and who threaten staff. They claim to be pro-life and have no problem ruining anyone's life. They're not able to recognize that a woman's body belongs to her at all times. They're not able to recognize that we, as women, do not have to justify the decisions we make about our bodies to anyone. I'm proud to be part of a party that supports a woman's right to abortion, and even prouder to be part of a nation where this has already been decided on. These people have the right to protest. That's their right, but they shouldn't expect our respect because they won't get it.
Kildonan St. Paul.
Today I stand to honor our brave police officers after the country received devastating news that yet again one of our police officers has fallen. Early this morning in the small town of Bourget, Ontario, Sergeant Eric Mueller was killed and 2 more officers were injured on the job. Conservatives join with the OPP and police officers across the country in praying for the 2 officers still in hospital, for the family of Sergeant Mueller, and for the safety of our brave police officers across Canada. This terrible tragedy follows 9 months that had been the worst in recent memory for Canadian police. We have lost and we honor Constable Andrew Hong, Constable Morgan Russell, Constable Devin Northrup, Constable Shaylin Yang, Constable Gregors Priscilla, Constable Travis Jordan, Constable Brett Ryan, Sergeant Maureen Bro, Constable Harvinder Singh Dami, and now Sergeant Eric Mueller. To all our police, we mourn with you, and we stand with you today and every day. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Canada Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, as I speak, just outside this House, a protest is underway, spouting anti-choice chants with the goal of tearing away a woman's access to abortion. Countless women have fought for years for our right to an abortion, a hard-earned freedom to privacy, to autonomy, and to choice. As the foundation that they built comes under threat from the rhetoric spewed by the Conservatives, we have a responsibility to not let up the fight. We cannot go back. We will not go back. As we fight tooth and nail to protect abortion as the safe healthcare practice that it is, we are relentless. I am proud to be part of a government that is committed to protecting my freedom and every woman's freedom to choose. I am proud of each and every woman and man on this side of the House who's committed to ensuring these rights are upheld.
Oral questions. Question orale. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
L'idéologie woke, égoïste.
The wokest ideology of the Prime Minister was laid bare when Terry Fox was taken off the passport, and Quebec City, and the soldiers at Vimy Ridge, to be replaced by a coloring book and a photo of the Prime Minister swimming at Lake Harrington. I commit today to use conservative common sense to put all those images back on our passport and all the history we're so proud of. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. The Minister of Immigration, rather.
But let's not pretend that the only place that we're able to do that is inside the pages of our passport. I know about Vimy Ridge because I've read books about it, because I've researched it independently, because I've talked to veterans who served in the military. I know that Brigadier General A.E. Ross said that in those few minutes I witnessed the birth of a nation, not because a picture was included in the passport. We're going to continue to take opportunities to commemorate our nation's heroes, whether it includes statues on Parliament Hill, whether it includes heroes like Viola Desmond on the $10 bill, or whether we seek other opportunities to commemorate our history. We'll continue to engage Canadians along the way and make decisions that celebrate our nation's heroes.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This Prime Minister's woke and out-of-touch ideology is so egotistical that it can't imagine there are any Canadian stories bigger than him. That's why he deletes Terry Fox, the soldiers that died at Vimy, the City of Quebec, the RCMP from our passport, to replace it with a coloring book that includes an image of him swimming at Harrington Lake when he was a boy. I announce that a common-sense Conservative government will bring back Vimy, bring back our memory of Terry Fox, bring back pride in our country, and restore a passport that all of us can be proud of.
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I would caution the opposition leader to claiming that he somehow has a monopoly on caring about Terry Fox. Talk to the member from Oakville for her advocacy for Terry Fox. Talk about the money that she has helped secure for cancer research. Terry Fox lives on in the memories of Canadians because of his courage demonstrated during the Marathon of Hope. And
I'm going to have to interrupt the Minister. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition wants to hear the answer to the question he asked. Now, I'm going to let the Minister start from the top so that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition can hear the whole thing. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would caution all members of this House on claiming some sort of a monopoly of caring about our nation's heroes. Terry Fox is beloved by Canadians, not just because his picture was in the passport, but because of his courage he demonstrated during the Marathon of Hope. The research funding that has come to help advance care for cancer patients. My family has been affected by cancer, and I celebrate still Terry Fox's contributions to our national discourse. Look at the advocacy on behalf of the member of Oakville to help secure funding to perpetuate his legacy, continue to improve cancer research. We can commemorate our heroes in a number of ways, and we're committed to doing that.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Prime Minister is out of touch and in hiding. Yesterday, as he left the House, he's challenged me to have more of these debates, and now he won't even get out of his seat and answer my questions. And we know why. He's afraid. He's afraid to defend not only his first carbon tax, which he admits will increase the price of gas by 41 cents a litre at thousands of dollars of net cost per family, but now he's got carbon tax 2, a second tax with no rebate that will increase food, heat, and gas prices even further. How much will the second carbon tax increase the cost of gas on hardworking Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So now we have the Premier, the Conservative Premier of New Brunswick, at the request of one of the Conservative member that has asked the federal government to put in place our carbon pricing system, we have a number of members, Conservative members, who have argued in favor of carbon pricing, Mr. Speaker. We have all of the provinces and all of the territories in Canada that have put in place carbon pricing in Canada. And while we've done that, we've increased jobs in Canada, we've increased economic development, and we've reduced our pollution by more than 50 million tons. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The question, the Prime Minister was too afraid to stand up and answer it and debate me. The question was about the cost of the second carbon tax. We know that the Prime Minister's first carbon tax will cost 41 cents a litre at a net cost to average families of over $1,500. But that's not enough for him. He wants a second carbon tax, which will add even more costs without any rebate at all. We know that he told falsehoods about the first tax. Will he finally have the guts to stand up and tell us how much his second tax will cost Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you'll allow me, I will read from the Conservative Party of Canada's election platform from the last election, the platform that this party stood and spoke to Canadians about. And I'm quoting from page 78, Mr. Speaker. Our plan will ensure that all Canadians do their part.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm starting to hear chatter again. I'm having a hard time hearing the answer. And it's coming from a certain point. I'm sure they don't want the next question to be swapped with the last one and have someone very special to them.
Right here. It was coming equally from that side as from this side.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge, apologize, please. Apologize to the Chair for interrupting.
We won't be speaking again. Chair, I apologize for interrupting.
Very good, thank you. Now, I want to remind all of you to have some respect for this chamber. That includes the Honourable Member for Timmins James Bay. No, I don't want to hear. No, I'm not. I just want to say I hear his chattering throughout. I just want to ask him to keep it down and stop, please. Now, we'll go back to the Minister from the top, and I want to see everything calm down. The Honourable Minister, please.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition and many members across have called me woke before. And if woke means standing up for the future of my children and grandchildren so that they have access to clean air and clean water, then so be it, Mr. Speaker. If woke means standing up to create jobs for generations of Canadians and investing in a clean economy, then so be it, Mr. Speaker. And if woke means standing up for the rights of women to choose, then so be it, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
He's woke, and so Canadians are broke, Mr. Speaker. And I'll tell you what woke means in practice. I'll tell you what woke means in practice. His government approved dumping millions of liters of raw sewage into the St. Lawrence River. That's what woke means. Woke means charging a single mom higher costs to drive to work and feed her kids while the Prime Minister jets around using Canadian tax dollars pumping emissions into our atmosphere. That is the woke hypocrisy across the way. And if he's got the guts to tell the truth, will he tell us how much will carbon tax 2 cost Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Family.
Well, Mr. Speaker, what's exceptionally disappointing from the Leader of the Opposition is that at a time when families in Alberta are experiencing some of the worst wildfires in their history, he's railing against policies that are helping to fight climate change. Mr. Speaker, when he talks about that single mom, unfortunately, he has opposed sending her the Canada Child Benefit, which has put thousands of dollars in her pocket. And he's also opposed the child care agreements that are supporting families across this country save thousands of dollars. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the environment, when it comes to supporting families, we know where the Leader of the Opposition.
The Honourable Député de La Prairie.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, 100 million people by 2100. Everyone in Quebec can see that the Century Initiative is not the initiative of the century. The Quebec Premier said that this was a threat to our nation. The National Assembly passed not 1, 2, but 3 unanimous resolutions against those targets. Everyone in Quebec is opposed. It's not just nasty nationalists. It's everybody who thinks this would be a radical change in Quebec without any debate or notice, will the government undertake not to raise immigration to 100 million Canadians by 2100? The Honourable Minister of Immigration. Mr. Speaker, allow me to be crystal clear here. The Initiative Century is not a policy of our government. It's very important to bring people to work in our communities. They make essential contributions to Canadians' well-being, but it's important and it's essential to bring in newcomers while protecting the political influence of Francophones at the same time. That's the policy, the current policy of this government. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, all parties in this House recognize the Quebec nation, but today they are incapable of respecting the Quebec nation. The Liberals are adopting immigration levels that are universally opposed in Quebec. And what do they say? Well, it'll be based on what the business community wants, not what Quebecers want. And what does the NDP say? Who cares? Will the other parties stand up with the Quebec nation and say no to these targets of 500,000 people and more per year? The Honourable Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs. Mr. Speaker, my honourable colleague knows full well that Quebec has a number of tools at its disposal to control immigration to Quebec. We also know, Mr. Speaker, that all across Quebec, there are help wanted signs, and we're hiring signs. And I was in Quebec over in recent days, and I saw businesses all over the place in industrial parks and so on who need workers. So we're going to work together with the government of Quebec and businesses in Quebec to ensure they have access to that labor. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. Once again, the Conservative Party is going to try to reopen the debate on abortion. And again, the Liberals will stand hand on heart, professing to be outraged without doing anything to improve access to abortion. Will the Liberals quit the empty rhetoric and guarantee access to abortion? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
We know on this side of the House that healthcare and abortion go hand in hand. We will always protect a woman's right to an abortion. We've seen on the other side of this House an attempt to attack a woman's right to an abortion. And let me be clear, that will not stand on this side of the House.
Member for Burnaby South.
See, the reality is the Liberal government, it's often all talk and no action, particularly when it comes to something as important as reproductive rights. They promised themselves to ensure that all regions of this country have access to abortion services. Did they deliver? No. They failed. They promised to ensure that anti-abortion groups spreading misinformation wouldn't receive charitable status. Did they deliver?
No.
No, they failed. Again and again, they continue to say one thing and do another. Will they stop with the empty words and deliver concrete steps to defend not just the right?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
On this side of the House, our policy is clear. We have a clear feminist policy, and that includes a woman's right to choose, a woman's right to access to abortion. And we will be there to fund clinics, and we will also be there to counter the opponents who are influenced by the U.S. and certainly some of our colleagues opposite.
Hill. $3,000. That's the price that Canadians could soon be paying to rent one bedroom in Toronto. That's according to a piece from BNN Bloomberg this week. The report says that limited supply, which of course gives you higher prices, is the reason. So under this Prime Minister, new units aren't being built fast enough, housing prices have doubled, and the dream of home ownership is slipping away. So when will they get out of the way and actually get shovels into the ground?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Speaker, it's really amazing to listen to the Conservatives finally come around to actually proposing some half-baked ideas about housing. We've been doing everything that the honourable member is talking about for the last 2 years. We've been tying infrastructure to housing. We've been investing in municipalities to make sure that we have more housing supply. We've been building more affordable housing. We've been putting measures in place to help first-time home buyers. And we've been building rapid housing for the most vulnerable. We've been doing it all while they've voted against every single measure we've brought to this House.
Well, member for Thornhill.
Speaker, because none of it is working, the housing minister is spending $89 billion to double the price of a home, double the rent, double a mortgage payment, and he's about to build 50,000 less houses this year than he did last year. In 8 years, we've also lost 20,000 affordable housing units. They're spending more money to get higher prices and worse results. It's a failure by any measure. So will he bring home places to live for our people so that they can actually afford?
The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, maybe the honourable member needs to talk to her leader, because he stood up in this House and insulted and denigrated 3 of the leading mayors of Canada's largest cities, calling them woke. He also stood in this House and pledged to cut housing funding, and somehow he hopes that all of that will result in some magical solution to the housing issue. It is the same magical thinking that underpinned his advice to Canadians to go with cryptocurrency, to opt out of inflation, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Haldimand Norfolk.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government has created a cost of living crisis. Housing prices have doubled under the Liberals. Many Canadians are skipping meals just to keep up with their bills. Now the Liberals plan a 41-cent per litre tax increase on heat, gas, and food. When will the Liberal government come to its senses and cancel its harmful tax increases?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Conservatives talk a big game when it comes to energy in Canada. But here are the facts, Mr. Speaker. Under the Conservative government, foreign oil imports were double what they are today. Facts, imports from non-U.S. sources have declined 80% under our government. These facts speak for themselves, Mr. Speaker. Under our government, more Canadians are using Canadian energy. Member opposite may not like it, but a fact is a fact, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Haldimand Norfolk.
Mr. Speaker, the fact is the Liberals have not met one single climate target. Exactly. Liberal taxes are breaking the backs of Canadians. Liberal policies are discouraging workers by clawing back more and more of what Canadians earned. Liberals are making it impossible to get ahead. So many Canadians are discouraged and are concerned about buying their first home, starting a family, or working towards financial independence. Will this Prime Minister cancel his plan to raise taxes on food, heat, and gas and give Canadians some hope?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to let the honourable member know that from the very time we formed government, we have been laser focused on making life more affordable for Canadians. I note that at every step along the way, when we have cut taxes for the middle class or delivered benefits directly to families, the Conservatives have reliably been there to vote against the measures we put forward. The reality, Mr. Speaker, is some of the comments that are coming from the Conservative Party right now about money that's earned by Canadians that's so-called being taken away, those are the funds that go towards ensuring Canadians have access to the Canada Pension Plan. Those are the funds that go towards making sure Canadians have access to employment insurance if they fall in hard times. We will defend the social programs that keep my neighbours well during difficult times.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Legal Lakes.
The Globe and Mail reported that the Trudeau Foundation was used as part of an influence operation to get access to the Prime Minister. We heard from the CEO this week that with the donation, there was no oversight and no due diligence or audit. Within 5 weeks of the Prime Minister's brother signing this $200,000 donation agreement with 2 Beijing-backed donors, they both had direct access to the Prime Minister. The question's very simple. Does the Prime Minister still believe the allegations in the Globe and Mail are false?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, what has been said time and time again in this House is that the Prime Minister does not have a connection, direct or indirect with the foundation for more than 10 years. It is an independent foundation, Mr. Speaker, that's responsible for giving scholarships to young leaders who are going to have tremendous futures in this country. And if they have questions about that organization that gives those scholarships, they should ask them directly. But what we've seen through the testimony is that they're in a partisan way, whether or not it's attacking the CBC or independent organizations. They have no care for who they attack with their partisan attacks or what damages it does. They're just seeking partisan advantage.
Honourable member, l'honorable. The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, the head of the Trudeau Foundation, a longtime Liberal and great friend of the Trudeau family, Edward Johnson, has been a good student. Like the Prime Minister, he willingly turned a blind eye to Beijing's attempt to influence the current Prime Minister through the foundation. The foundation manages $125 million of public money, and Mr. Johnson, like a good soldier, put all internal investigations into the donation from Beijing on ice. Instead of denying the facts revealed by the Globe and Mail, why won't the Prime Minister admit that he willingly turned a blind eye because his party benefited from Beijing's support? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, the foundation in question is at arm's length. The Prime Minister has no relationship, direct or indirect, with the foundation, and that's clear. The foundation is responsible for student grants. It exists independently, and its mission is to ensure that the next generation of leaders has support for their studies. And if the people opposite have questions about the foundation, they should ask questions directly to them. The honourable member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the government may say they're not on board with the Century Initiative, but they're setting the same targets. I say same targets, but that's not exactly true. The Century Initiative recommended 475 newcomers by 2025. The government has opted for 500,000, so they're going even faster, despite the unanimous opposition of the National Assembly, without consulting Quebec and without public debate. The Bloc Québécois is calling on all parties, but the Liberals in particular, if they want to copy the Century Initiative or even raise immigration levels faster, will they at least have the honesty to tell Quebecers? The Honourable Minister of Immigration. It's interesting, Mr. Speaker. Clearly, my friend opposite hasn't read the federal government's immigration plans. If he had read the chapter on Francophone immigration, he would have seen that we plan to support the highest number of we have supported the highest number of Francophone newcomers in Canadian history. But the situation in Quebec is different. Quebec has its own power to set immigration levels for Quebec. Quebec has the power to choose each and every individual admitted to Quebec. The honourable member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, they haven't met their targets for Francophone immigration in 20 years, and now they're boasting about it. Immigration levels aren't abstract. It's not just numbers or stats thrown up in the air. There are people behind those numbers with needs. They need housing, health care, childcare, and education for their kids. They also need to integrate into their new society, to learn its language and culture. We can't look at immigration in purely economic terms. We're talking about human beings, Mr. Speaker. Can the government commit to rejecting this bad initiative and finally take into account the capacity for integration in setting those levels? The Honourable Minister. I'd like to thank my colleague for his intervention, Mr. Speaker, but when I hear immigration, I also hear labour shortage. And what Quebecers watching today need to see is that Quebec has its own power to set immigration levels and to select immigrants. But what we're hearing all across Quebec in all the regions is that there's a need for workers. For example, when there's investments in industries, what the mayors and municipalities want is talent and skilled workers. That's how we're going to build Quebec, and that's how we're going to build Canada. The honourable member for Montcalm. Mr. Speaker, let's talk about health transfers. The provinces said they needed $28 billion a year. The federal government only gave them 1/6 of that amount. That was insult enough. But that was to take care of the current population. It didn't take into account the Century Initiative. The Liberals' targets are for a minimum of 500,000 people by 2025, and who knows what's next. What studies is their claim based on that they can handle at least 500,000 more people a year with only 1/6 of the money that's needed? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, first of all, the Bloc knows full well, as the Minister said, the Century Initiative is not federal policy. Secondly, as I know, no member from the Bloc was with the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs and the Health Minister at the bargaining table when an additional $8 billion was negotiated in health transfers to Quebec. That's what Quebec wanted, and that's what we gave them.
The Finance Minister refuses to appear at the Finance Committee for 2 hours to answer basic questions about her failed budget. I mean, she spent more time in a round-trip flight between Toronto and...
Just a minute. I'd like to remind all members that when they are talking to one another, their voices carry. The sound system is very sensitive.
Over. I just want them to be mindful, and so that we can hear the questions and the answers. I know some of it is not done on purpose. We're just talking amongst ourselves. It's like being at work and talking to the next person, maybe 4 or 5 benches over, but it really does echo and it interferes. So I just want everyone to be conscious of that. The Honourable Member for Calgary, Forest Lawn, please, from the top.
The Finance Minister refuses to appear at the Finance Committee to answer basic questions for 2 hours about her failed budget. I mean, she spent more time in a round-trip flight between Toronto and Ottawa than she has in the Finance Committee in the last year. Her failed budget added an extra $4,200 cost on struggling households with their $43 billion Liberal budget bonanza. Why is she hiding from answering for 2 hours at the committee? Is she as embarrassed by this budget as much as Canadians are?
Yeah.
The Honourable Minister for Tourism.
I've been very clear on this issue that the Finance Minister is very ready and is scheduled to appear at the Finance Committee. But, Mr. Speaker, guess what's happening this morning? Once again, Liberals showed up to work to listen to testimony for the Budget Implementation Act. But guess what the Conservative MP for South Shore St. Margaret's wanted to talk about? The tax man from the Beatles. Now, Mr. Speaker, I got nothing against the Beatles, but I do want to see supports getting out to Canadians. So my appeal to every member in this House, Mr. Speaker, is this. Let's come together right now. Pass the bill.
The Honourable Member for Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Look, Mr. Speaker, if I was a Finance Minister, I'd be embarrassed to answer for 2 hours as well. I mean, she misled Canadians and said she didn't want to add fuel to inflation, then threw a $43 billion inflationary jerry can on the inflationary fire that she created in the first place. They gaslit Canadians for years about their failed carbon tax scam, while Canadians watched them jet set around the world trying to up their phony celebrity status. And now it seems like the Finance Minister is auditioning for her next career. When will she realize that this isn't a part-time job? When will she get to work, appear at the committee for 2 hours, and answer basic questions about her failed budget?
The Honourable Minister for Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, it's very clear that the Conservatives aren't happy about the fact that Canada has maintained its AAA credit rating, that Canada has made sure in this last budget that inflation has not gone up. In fact, Mr. Speaker, going down for 9 consecutive months in a row, the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7, the fastest growing economy. Mr. Speaker, what is the Conservative filibuster stopping? Faster payments for Canada Workers' Benefits, supports to parents to help with their kids' education, supports for tax reductions for tradespeople. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are filibustering. What are they going to stop and deliver for Canadians?
The Honourable Member from Montmagny, Lillet, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are struggling to make ends meet and they're fed up. While this government insists on taking more off their paychecks and out of their pockets, they're forging ahead with their plan to raise the price of gas, food, and housing. People in my riding talk to me about this every day. The Prime Minister should stop taking lavish trips abroad and start listening to what Canadians are saying every day. Will he finally put an end to his policies that make everything we buy more expensive? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. That's precisely what we've done, Mr. Speaker. We've listened to Canadians, something the Conservatives should try. we heard three things. One, they wanted help with grocery prices, and that's why we implemented a grocery rebate that will help 11 million Canadians all across the country. The second thing Canadians said was they want to have a family doctor, and that's why we took action around health. And third, they said help us prepare for the economy of the 21st century, and that's precisely what we're doing. We're positioning Canada for the economy of the 21st century.
Kona. Mr. Speaker, I'm a mother, and if my daughter ever needed an abortion, I would do everything possible to make sure she had access to the full range of reproductive health care. Yet this government has done nothing to ensure equal access for Canadians. Only 1 in 6 hospitals in this country provide abortion services. The Liberals are all talk, but women in rural communities are suffering. Abortion care is not a campaign slogan. We need more providers, more funding, and more action from this government. How long are Canadians going to have to wait, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The right to an abortion and access to abortion undoubtedly go hand in hand. And here in Canada, universal access to abortion is guaranteed under the Canada Health Act. Through the $45 million Sexual and Reproductive Health Fund, we're making sure that Canadians facing obstacles to accessing abortions are supported financially, and organizations providing these services have capacity to do so. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Timmins James Bay.
Priests for Life. They're this militant political action group fighting against women's reproductive freedom, and their behavior is so extreme that Pope Francis himself had to kick their leader out of the Roman Catholic Church. Wow. So how is it possible that this group of anti-women extremists keep getting approval for Canada's summer jobs? It's unconscionable that Canadian youth are being encouraged to get trained by this extremist political network while taxpayers fund the bill. Wow. So will the minister explain why Canada's summer jobs continues to offer funding to anti-choice extremists?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Women's Rights.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the question. You know, we all know in this House how much we value Canada's summer jobs in our community. It provides incredible opportunities for youth and for employers throughout. Throughout this process, we know MP input is critical. We value that input, and I encourage all MPs to bring forward their suggestions, their concerns, their ideas. We're always happy to hear from them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Surrey Centre.
Mr. Speaker, gun violence and violent crime has prevented Canadians in BC from feeling safe in their communities. Since 2015, our government has prioritized prevention, intervention, and enforcement as ways we can keep guns off the street and give resources to our neighbourhoods. Can the Minister of Public Safety tell the House what the government of Canada is doing to eliminate violent crime in British Columbia?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
First, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague from Surrey for his advocacy and his hard work. I would also be remiss if I did not take a moment to express our condolences to OPP Officer Mueller's family. He died in a tragic incident last night, and our hearts and our thoughts go out to them. We want to be sure that his sacrifice is not in vain, Mr. Speaker, and that is why the announcement that we made earlier this week providing $390 million for law enforcement across this country will help to ensure that we can prevent another tragedy like that from occurring again and keep Canadians safe from gun violence. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
I don't know if the Prime Minister could be more out of touch with the reality of Canadians. It really wasn't too long ago that people literally lined up and stayed the night, camping out in order to get their passport renewed or a new one altogether. People missed out on being able to go see a dying loved one before they passed away. They missed out on weddings. They missed out on funerals. They missed out on family celebrations. And why was that? Well, it turns out that it was because this government was more concerned with erasing history by removing Terry Fox, Quebec City, Vimy Ridge from our passports rather than getting passports expedited to Canadians.
Right.
Why is this government so hell-bent on erasing Canada's history?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to share with members of this House that my honourable colleague is deeply mistaken With regards to the ability for Canadians to get their passports in a timely way, I want to credit the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development for her work to eliminate the backlog so Canadians could get the passports for travel where and when they were needed. With respect to the changes to the passport, the designs were approved a number of years ago before there were any considerations of backlogs in passport applications. But it's very important, Mr. Speaker, that no party in this House claims a monopoly over owning Canada's history. Every member of this House cares deeply about our nation's history, is proud of the country that we are, and will continue to commemorate in the years ahead.
The honourable member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are erasing Terry Fox's picture from Canadian passports. Terry Fox comes from Coquitlam, BC, and was a Métis. After his leg was amputated for cancer, he began his cross-country Marathon of Hope to raise funds for research. Terry didn't live to finish the race to the Pacific, but now millions participate in the annual Terry Fox Run to continue his race. Terry Fox is an international hero. Why would the Prime Minister rip this great Canadian's picture from our passports?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It breaks my heart to hear anyone in this House politicize a Canadian hero like Terry Fox. That is something that the Fox family has prided itself on since Terry passed away in 1980. Not only that, during the convoy, Terry's statue was defaced here in Ottawa, and the members opposite were supportive of that convoy.
Order. Now, both sides, please. Both sides, please. What I'm hearing is a lot of talking amongst yourselves, which makes it hard to hear the questions and the answers, and then it just elevates, and then the chatter starts back and forth. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, you have about 15 seconds to finish up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The members opposite are saying that we're erasing Terry Fox from history. Terry Fox will never, ever be erased from history, not only here in Canada, but around the world, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent.
Whoever made the decision to remove Terry Fox from Canadian passports needs to give their head a shake. Our country needs more Terry Fox, not less. A dit le maire de la ville où est né.
This was said by the mayor of Terry Fox's hometown, and that it's shameful to see the Liberals politicizing our passports. Mr. Speaker, the government is showing that it's completely disconnected from reality. It's shameful to be erasing the history of our country from our passports. Will they do something about it?
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to be a Terry Foxer. I'm proud that every member in this House is probably a Terry Foxer. There is no Canadian that people relate to more than Terry Fox. He will never be erased from history, Mr. Speaker. And I want to remind the members opposite who seem to stand here and want to politicize one of the greatest Canadians ever that they said nothing when Terry's statue was defaced on Wellington Street during the convoy.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Order.
Order. Order.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, I would urge the Minister and the Parliamentary Secretary, everyone on that side, to repeat what they said to the Mayor of Terry Fox's hometown. Good luck. Good luck. But, Mr. Speaker, in this document, what is the most important thing for Canadians when we're abroad are 4 references to Quebec City. The Conference of Quebec City, the Quebec City, Champlain is there, and so is so is the man who discovered the north of Canada with his boat. Why is the Liberal government erasing our history from our passport? The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Very important that nobody in this House claims a monopoly over caring for our national heroes like Terry Fox, claims a monopoly over caring about our nation's history. The reality is, over the past 10 years, an exercise to consult Canadians was taken on to understand what people want reflected in their travel document. We have themes protecting, recognizing the different regions of Canada, our natural environment, the contributions of Indigenous Canadians, and of course, improved security features. The Canadian passport is one of the most powerful trackable documents. It allows you access to almost every country in the world. It's something we should be proud of, and we can protect the security of our passport and celebrate our history at the same time.
The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister meets with CSIS once a week. If you exclude his vacations and his numerous foreign missions, we can presume that the Prime Minister received at least 50 briefing sessions since 2021 when CSIS found out about the threats against the member for Wellington Halton Hills. In all of these briefing sessions, no one would have brought up the matter of the threats against the member? Come on, this is simply not credible. That's impossible to believe. In these 50 briefing sessions with CSIS, how many of them dealt with the threats against elected members of Parliament? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, as our Minister has already said earlier this week, it is CSIS who decides in the context of whether information should be shared with the Cabinet and the Prime Minister. And in Budget 2023, we have invested resources for the creation of a national coordinator to fight foreign interference, to add resources also for the RCMP. That is how we can protect not only our democratic institutions, but also include all Canadians. The Honourable Member for Laurentides-Labelle. Mr. Speaker, when the Prime Minister was notified by CSIS that candidates from his party might have been supported by Chinese authorities, he did nothing. He said nothing. When he was notified by CSIS that members and their families were victims of threats and intimidation, he said nothing. He did nothing. Can the Prime Minister tell this House with a straight face that if the threats against the member for Wellington Halton Hills hadn't come out, he would still have expelled the Chinese diplomat? The Honourable Minister of Interparliamentary Affairs. Mr. Speaker, we have said on many occasions that we take the threat of foreign interference extremely seriously. We have announced measures since we formed government. We have strengthened measures around threats to elected members of Parliament. And, Mr. Speaker, obviously, it is completely unacceptable to envisage this type of thing, so we gave clear directives to CSIS to ensure that this information is shared, and we will always monitor as required.
Dundas, South Glengarry.
After 8 years of the Liberals, here's where housing is at in Canada. Housing prices, rent, and mortgage payments have all doubled. And at a time when we need more housing built, the Liberals' own statistics show that they are down 32% in housing starts. The Liberal response is, we're spending records amounts of money. But now we know where that money is going. The housing minister signed off on $51 million in performance bonuses for gatekeepers at the CMHC. Can the Liberals explain why they are bonusing housing gatekeepers when they are failing by every possible measure?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
The Honourable Member knows that independent Crown corporations are responsible for the compensation of their staff. But when it comes to housing supply, we are supporting Canadians struggling with the cost of housing and protecting the dream of home ownership by including things like a $4 billion housing accelerator fund to speed up the construction of new housing, a federal top-up to the Canada Housing Benefit to help millions of Canadians, and a 40,000 first-time homebuyer tax-free savings account. New guidelines to protect Canadians who already have mortgages. All of these measures are helping Canadians, and what did the Conservatives do? They voted against each one of them, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we already know that the Liberals' $80 billion housing plan has only made the crisis worse. In fact, just a few weeks ago, the CMHC has raised government fees on new rental construction. Countless housing providers have abandoned new projects because of the red tape and endless delays at the CMHC. And now we learn that every single executive at the CMHC got a fat bonus. Why do the Liberals reward executives who are actively making the crisis worse?
Good question. The Honourable Minister for... The Honourable Minister.
Intergovernmental Affairs, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and Intergovernmental Affairs allows me, Mr. Speaker, to work with the mayors of Canada's cities and towns. And one thing I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, is that they want a partner that will help them with the housing crisis in their communities. That's exactly what our government has done. And I'll tell you, Mr. Speaker, what we haven't done. We haven't decided that it would be a successful housing strategy to insult the mayor of Montreal, the mayor of Toronto, and the mayor of Vancouver. They want a government that will work with them on the housing crisis. That's what my colleague, the Minister of Housing, is doing, and that's what our government will continue to do, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Well, maybe that minister should come with me as I crisscross the country talking to community groups who have given up. They come to me in tears because of the disastrous housing policy that this government has presented, and they hand out $26 million in bonuses. How many homes could you build with an extra $26 million?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Explained our housing plan to the leader of the official opposition. You could see from his face that that was the first time he heard of the plan. And when we launched the Housing Accelerator Fund, that same afternoon they launched a half-baked plan that basically mimicked our plan. We're already doing, for the last 2 years, we're connecting infrastructure to housing. We are working with municipalities to speed up housing supply. We've been helping first-time home buyers, and we're investing in affordable housing. The problem is they keep voting against all these measures, and then they get up and talk about how they talk to communities and want to do something about housing, but when it comes time to actually take action, they fail every time, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle. Mr. Speaker, abortion is health care. A woman's right to choose is hers and hers alone. And yet, right now, anti-choice militants supported by their Conservative allies are meeting here on the Hill in the hope of pushing back our abortion rights. Their objective is clear. They want to restrict abortion up here in Canada. Can the Minister inform this House of the measures taken by the government to protect women's right to choose? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague from Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle for her important question. Mr. Speaker, we know what happens when right-wing militants work with anti-choice politicians to try to deprive us of our fundamental rights. Mr. Speaker, all that does is to cut the rights of women, Mr. Speaker, and because our mothers and our grandmothers have fought hard to ensure us those rights. So all women must have a choice, and they must have access to reproductive health services. And so we're not going to back down.
For Northumberland, Peterborough South.
Canadians are out of money, this Prime Minister is out of touch, and soon he'll be out of a job. Why? Because this Liberal government is driving up the cost of living through its inflationary spending and its higher taxes. It used to be that Canadians who worked hard, made the right decision, would get ahead in this country. Unfortunately, more and more Canadians are falling behind. Many low and middle income families and Canadians are paying marginal tax rates in excess of 50, 60, 70%. And as if that wasn't enough, this Prime Minister is going to add another tax, a new carbon tax, on top of a 41-cent per litre tax, raising the cost of home heating and food. Will this Prime Minister finally give Canadians a break and axe both the tax?
The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Speaker, we've just gone from the sublime into the ridiculous. Why doesn't the Honourable Member add 80, 90, or 100% tax in this fictitious world that he lives in? I mean, for heaven's sakes, Mr. Speaker, that is absurd in the extreme. I've seen Commedia dell'arte in my life, but I've never seen such a farce in the House of...
I just want to remind the honourable members, only one question at a time. You can't come up with a supplementary while your question is being answered. The honourable minister has 15 seconds left if he wants to continue.
I have nothing to add, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Perth Wellington.
Mr. Speaker, the Battle of Vimy Ridge united Canada as a nation through the service and sacrifice of 3,598 Canadian soldiers. Terry Fox's Marathon of Hope leaves a legacy that lives to this very day for our nation. And Nellie McClung pushed our nation forward with more equality and human rights as a suffragette leader. But instead of honoring the great moments in our country's history, these Liberals are instead focused on man with wheelbarrow and squirrel with nuts. Mr. Speaker, why is this Liberal government so intent on erasing Canadian history from our passport?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister for Families.
Emblematic of how the Conservatives acted when they were in government. They spent more time on symbols than on action, Mr. Speaker. When it comes to our veterans, what did they do? They closed 9 veterans offices across the country. When it came to cancer, what did they do, Mr. Speaker? They didn't make any investments. What did we do? We invested in the Terry Fox Foundation, Mr. Speaker. When the Terry Fox statue was being desecrated, what did they do? They cheered on the convoy. And when it comes to Mr. Women's rights, Madam Speaker, what did they do with Campaign Life Coalition on the Hill? They introduced legislation to make it harder for a woman's right to choose. Give me a break, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, 2 worlds, 2 realities. On one hand, we have a highfalutin Prime Minister who takes luxury vacations at taxpayers' expense, and on the other hand, we have overtaxed Canadians who have to tighten their belts in order to make ends meet and to pay their rent and their bills. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister stop making hard-working Canadians pay for his pricey whims? Because it's wrong. The Honourable Minister of Tourism. Mr. Speaker, once again, the Liberals came to the Finance Committee to work hard in order to advance the cause for Canadians, and the Conservatives are continuing their wrong plan to filibuster this committee. So if the Conservatives are really concerned about the cost of living, they should stop the filibuster and work together with us and to pass the BIA.
Scarborough Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I have heard concerns from many constituents and members of the Pakistani community in Canada about processing times for temporary resident visas for Pakistani applicants. Currently, the IRCC website gives a wait time of 802 days compared to a few weeks for nearby countries. I know the Minister of Immigration is personally engaged on this issue. Could he please explain why this number is misleading and what's really happening with processing for Pakistan?
Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for her question, for her advocacy on behalf of the Canadian Pakistani community, as well as my other caucus colleagues who recently approached me to discuss this issue. I have good news. Today, an application for a TRV from a Pakistani applicant is expected to take 60 days, and we anticipate very soon returning to the 30-day standard we enjoyed before the pandemic. The reason the website shows an extended period is because we have gotten through such a significant volume, about 80,000 cases in recent months, that we're now tackling applications that were submitted during the pandemic when travel was not allowed. That's why you see inflated wait time on the website, but the truth is things have improved dramatically and people should expect timely resolutions to their immigration decisions.
Member for Port Moody Coquitlam.
Mr. Speaker, reproductive health rights are at risk. Generations of women are exhausted by their continued fight to protect and improve access to reproductive health care. The Liberals claim they're feminists, but they haven't invested to deliver the health care services women and diverse genders need. In BC, the NDP government has taken the important step to make prescription contraceptives free. Why won't the Liberals do the work and make this a reality for all Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm glad my colleague across the way mentioned BC, because just earlier this week, we were able to announce a $4.2 million investment to Action Canada and UBC so that they can continue to serve women with vital reproductive health care and access to abortion. On this side of the House, we will continue to do everything possible to ensure access to reproductive health care. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Spadina, Fort York.
Mr. Speaker, as the government shudders in fear over what China may do to punish it for expelling a diplomat, Canada should look at reining in China's ability to waltz in and buy numerous mining land claims. Canadian prospecting companies have no chance of getting claims approved in China which are rejected without reason. But the welcome mat is out for Chinese companies, often thinly veiled arms of the Chinese Communist Party. Canada's Indigenous groups are not even consulted as they see Chinese land claims spring up on territorial lands. Mr. Speaker, will the government send a clear signal to Beijing that Canada is not their personal plaything and that we too will strongly stand up for our national security and sovereignty?
The Honourable Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I think my colleague well knows that we have a very important Indo-Pacific strategy which includes our China strategy, and in there it is clear that we will put a national security lens on foreign investments. And therefore, of course, we have the security of Canadians in mind, at stake, as a priority. And meanwhile, as my colleague mentioned in his question, we will never accept any form of foreign interference, we'll never accept any form of meddling in our democracy, and that's why we declared the diplomat in question persona non grata. Thank you.
Good answer.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have for a question period today. It being 3:13, pursuant to order made. Oh, we have a point of order. The honourable member for Northumberland.
There was some surprise when I told the Liberals that, in fact, that some Canadians are facing 50 to 60%. So I would like to table a document from the C.D. Howe Institute that demonstrates that many low middle-income Canadians.
I don't think we have unanimous consent. I'm hearing no's already, but it was a good attempt at debate, though. It being 3:14, pursuant to order made on Thursday, June 23rd, 2022, the House will now proceed to the taking of deferred recorded division on the motions at report stage bill C-13.
Call in the member.